The question on the floor was, what do we think about the fires? Well, the fires are what we know that they are. Well, we know that they're fires. What we don't know is what started them and the intensity. So what we really need to know is what type of fire was it? Was it natural? No. Was it man-made? Yes. Was it intentional? Yes. Are there ways to detect that? Yes. Are they using them? No. See what I'm saying? Did they sacrifice those children? Yes. Could they have gotten them out before the fire? Yes. Did they shut down power in that area before the fire started? Yes. So did they kill everybody on purpose? Yes. So, nothing outside of that matters at this point. At this point, that was an open salvo to the so-called American people that basically says we're willing to destroy and kill you before we give you up hostage to the rest of the world or whatever. So to me, it was a direct energy weapon attack, a so-called do attack, laser energy weapon attack. They did the same thing in RoboCop. Go back and look at RoboCop 1. There's a section on the news where it talks about a space thing malfunctioning and all of these lasers blowing up people, from the sky and shit. And it's the same type of fires. Also, they knew about it prior to, because the blue color that spared all of the BlackRock properties is done. But BlackRock is losing mad money now because everybody understands that they're the ones destroying the world based on the economy. So now people, investors are trying to pull out of BlackRock. So they're in a sense cursed now financially, which is why it's funny that the Burning Man situation is happening in BlackRock, Nevada, which is a whole mud flood Tataria ritual where allegedly they're giving them white people Ebola out there. So that's all functioning in tandem. So those two things are most likely related, but it definitely was a play because, like we've said, I've done classes. One of the most tip my hat to it today that I talked about how, all of that in Hawaii is really old Russian um kingdom land that was assumed by the state when they ceased to acknowledge the monarchy as the sovereign ruler of the land, because the monarchy was sold out by the amalgamated children of the land nobles of the time in the late 1800s and shit. So yeah, so while some people getting burnt out, the other white people getting flooded out of their annual Wicker Man ritual, which is an ancient pagan ritual. You know what I mean? Which is like another Passover ritual to the god of the Wicker, or the Wiccan man. There's two movies about that. One came out in the 60s and the other one came out with Nicolas Cage called The Wicker Man. You might want to peep those. So it gets you into all of that. But in this instance, you had people literally trying to escape through the mud. So what it looks like is none of the elites are safe from the shit neither. Like they getting their asses handed to them too. Chris Rock and Diplo had to hitchhike on the back of some niggas' trucks to get out after walking like allegedly 5 miles. So all of their spots is getting ran up out. You know what I mean? So the rain is falling on the just and the unjust alike. You know what I'm saying? Anybody else have any questions? They trying. That's what they said. FEMA's down there at Burning Man now there too, erecting walls, trying to keep niggas locked up there because they probably want the disease to have some time to fester. So that way, when these people go back to they wherever they from, the disease can take hold and start killing niggas. You know, that's probably they little plan. But no little black people go to Burning Man like that. Only black people going to Burning Man is tech niggas and like, you know, amalgamates and like black Satanists, them type people. Yeah, but I mean they've been spraying toxicants and heavy metal in it since we've been noticing the chemtrails popping up in like 81. They've been spraying that shit. They've been doing that. The same chemtrails that they were spraying when we was children. I'm 50. These niggas been spraying the same shit since I was a child. But I'm still here. We still here. So they obviously not that heavy. The creator's heavier. So whatever these heavy metals are, you know, based upon your diet and how you able to maintain yourself depends on how much they're gonna affect or not affect you. It gets to a point where the body just adapts the shit. You understand? Like people adapt. Your body naturally adapts to shit. That's why the vaccine shit is so whack. Because it's always man-made. Everybody know it's the WHO, the WEF, the IMF, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, UN, NATO, Red Cross, Red Crescent, and the bankers. That's it. And the CFR, Council of Foreign Relations, Club of Rome. That's it. And then all of the nobles that you don't hear about, like the Bosilion and the Sassion and the high, like the high dirty putrid French Satanist niggas, because they're the ones that's at the top, but they're the ones that's the most fallen now. France is falling. France been burning for a year. The whole country, you understand? France about to be Muslim. The whole France, they about to just turn all of that Muslim because they've given up on Europe. Europe is over, which means the West is over. The way that we understood it, where Europe was like the bastion of culture and all that. All that was propaganda anyway, because Europe was just the museum piece that they were able to bring back all the spoils of war after the deposed Moors lost their position and were then reestablished by the fallen sons and daughters of men. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all Europe really was. It's just a giant mausoleum for all the shit they was able to steal and bring back from the old Moorish Empire. But it was the Moors' fault because the Moors fell back into decadence. They forsook what covenant they made with the so-called Hebrews and these niggas. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, there was a covenant made, and eventually everybody see the reason why the Hebrews is so contested, or I think, is because they were allegedly chosen by their God to do certain things. And whenever they wouldn't do what they were told, they would fall victim, or their God would punish them by putting them under the jurisdiction of somebody else. You know what I'm saying? That's their whole thing. That's their whole shtick. They always got to go back and try to reestablish what they had, because whenever they had kingdoms, they will always go against the kingdom that was supposed to be beset for the God that they lost the kingdom to because they wouldn't follow his commandments. You understand? That's their whole thing. So what makes them chosen is that they were the ones again who chose, who went, who crossed over the river. You know what I'm saying? How does, real quick, how do you spell Deuteronomy? see. Anybody can get that real quick? Deuteronomy. Yeah, because all of Europe, that's already scheduled. They've already scheduled six that shit. They are shutting all of it down. They're about to put them under the climate BS. You know what I'm saying? The whole, they gotta not have like rubber and stoves and shit and all of that. They trying to put them. Thank you. They trying to put them under all of that, and the people not really gonna go for that out there. France, like I said, France is really messed up right now. They really going through it. They really don't have too much longer to last, I think, as a consecutive government, because it's so much corruption with them, and they're so, just out there with the terrorism. And now with what's happening in Africa, like, it's pretty much a dizzy for them. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a dub. Like, they're not going to be able to maintain a long-standing war in Africa against 3 African states combined. They're not going to be able to do that. You understand? They don't have the position in the continent anymore, which is why they want to try to get rid and try to ban the Wagner Group. The Wagner Group is FBS, ex Spetsnaz, ex KGB. You understand? These is hardcore uh uh revolutionary establishment mercenary groups. They're not, but see, that's the thing. Believe it or not, Russia and China are not into coup d'etats and shit though. They not really into that. The US and Britain, them niggas is into that. They not into that. They're not they're not supplying the Africans the way that you think. The Africans that's doing this was trained by CIA through AFRICOM and shit. You understand? They trained all of these niggas to go over there and flip coups. But they going by the old standard that these young niggas is so power hungry and greedy, like the 90 and 80-year-old oligarchs that's keeping their countries poor. They think they like these niggas, but they don't realize these niggas grew up listening to us. These niggas grew up listening to Wu-Tang and Brand Nubian and shit. Like, they was listening to the stuff that we stopped listening to. Like, in some places in Africa, hip hop is like it was in the 80s. Niggas is just getting up on like Rakim. You understand what I'm saying? They just getting up on like KRS and these niggas. They just getting up on it. So it's all new. It's all fresh for them. Also, because all these hip hop niggas done sold out, there's no protest music no more. There's no, the people who's making the protest music is the white conservative niggas. And that black man that did Let's Go Brandon, which was dope, by the way. Let's Go Brandon was hot. But outside of that, these niggas can't make nothing. Who did something before that? Fuck Trump. That was YG. And now he looks stupid because now he got to go back on all of that. But all of these niggas was puppets to begin with. But, excuse me, the situation though was the fact that, like I said, the problem came in what eventually became the war between the ancients and the moderns. So when we think of the ancients, we're thinking of that which came also before time immemorial, before what we perceive as the Adamic creation. Okay, that which preceded, that which existed, had always existed, just in the form of the dispossessed, meaning when let's assume, okay, let's assume, not assume, let's take for granted, that's not a good word either, let's imagine, for sake of argument, that the whole story about Adam and Eve was real. Let's say that. Let's just say that. Okay, let's go by that. Let's say in that reality, but that's real, but that really happened. Time itself basically began once they became aware of the the fallibility of their existence. So once they realized their existence was fallible, he came to understand that this was now real, and they saw themselves for what they really were, not the light being that they truly were, what was in the inside. Because they saw each other as what they both seen themselves as, which was pure light in a sense. So their inner self matched their outer self, which created a harmonious relationship with the energy and the people and the environment around them, right? Which we'll call Eden, right? So within that, once they became fallible and realized that, this was the situation, boom, they now begin to see each other as they perceive each other, okay? Because now they're coming down in the third density. They're not able to just go from the 11th to the thing like that as much as they were in commune with Allah. So within that, the story says within that period, Adam was so distraught with grief and upset at Eve that he was like 130 years away from her. During that time is when he allegedly has birth babies with Lilith. Who's Lilith? Lilith represents those women who existed at the time, right? Because these women that existed at the time were the daughters, right, of the men of the time who had given their daughters up for technological advances from what we would perceive as the fallen ones, which are these so-called angels, right, who after they fall, they incarnate in such and begin to lust over that which they were given charge over. Once they did that, breaking that covenant, they then proceeded to give them babies. These babies had voracious appetites that could not be sated by anything. And eventually these things that they gave birth to, right, was so huge, so immense, so thing that there was no space for them to exist. And then they, on top of that, now start creating other so-called abominations. And then, they have to create spaces and cities and shit like this for these things to exist in, to the point that two branches of humanity exist. Those that wasn't with the amalgamation, right? And those who descended now from the amalgamation, right? So these daughters that this nigga Adam had babies with then had other monsters, right? And now these monsters have monsters. So eventually it's to the point where everything is just, you understand? Like a Godzilla flick. Like at any moment, a monster could just rise up from the ground and just eat everybody at any moment type shit. Like, so people would begin to do things to try to satiate these things. Because remember, these things weren't naturally made. So once they are physically slain or die, they can't go nowhere. They can't go to heaven or what you would perceive heaven. They can't go to the perceived hell because they weren't made. Their structure wasn't made for the image of that type of transition. So what happens? They got to stay in this area, non-physical, but now exists eternally. So this is where we get the term demons, spirits, wandering, banshees, this type of shit from. And then these things go around and try to inhabit other things, right? People, places, animals, to then have more abominations, possess more people. You understand? So something had to be done. So it got to a point where we met them, or they came into the place in Moab where we was at. Because remember, you have the ancient peoples now who are descended again from Abraham, but they cursed in a sense because their foremother is this harlot. Let's say if you go by Semiramis and Nimrod, they say that she was a prostitute, and then Nimrod raised her from the position from her husband, who was like a cuckold, and then they sacrificed her, or the husband killed himself, or he sacrificed himself, and then she then becomes the mother for Nimrod, the mother wife to Nimrod, right? And then he basically a great hunter, world renowned. He's a descendant from these type of people. So you have these people cursed with this ancient or super ancient affliction of power coming from these cursed beings who force their way into amalgamated relationships with human beings. You understand? And then from those human beings, that's why the word human means monster, because none of those are man. You know what I'm saying? Man was set aside from all of this. And when I say man, I'm talking about man and woman. They set aside from all of this garbage. That's why they were given everything in the result, because they were originally made to survive this shit, to get rid of all this shit. So by the time somebody like, let's say Noah comes, and then the shit happens, and then he washes away, and then he finds land, and then his sons go out now into this world that's now full of these ancient giant structures, castles and shit that they don't remember what happened until one of his sons, Canaan, reads one of the joints left in angelic script that allow him to break shit down. And then this is where now what we perceive as magic is now brought back into the world, right? And one of the sources of magic is the just sanguineous, the blood, because this was all about genetic manipulation of the original seed to begin with. You understand? So it says here, in the covenant with the converted giants of Israel, Canaan, and Moab, yea, I stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, with all the men of Israel. See, so we're talking about a whole different nation than Israel. But we all in Moab together, because we're all together trying to figure out how we're going to get up and knock these titans and giants down, right? Your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp. Now, these are the white slaves. These are the things that's not altogether human. And thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water. See, they're slaves. They're white wood roast type slaves. That thou shouldest enter into the covenant with the Lord thy God, and into his oath, which the Lord thy God maketh with thee this day, that he established thee a day for a people unto himself, and that he may be unto thee a God. See, as he hath said unto thee, and as he hath sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So right there, they telling you that he may establish thee, meaning us, those that wasn't of this branch that broke away, us that was from the original branch of the whole thing, from the time that this nigga Adam was strayed away and was doing his thing. Because they say he lived to be like 912 or 900 and something years. So 130 of them years, according to the book of Adam and Eve, he was out having babies and wilding in the lands that had already still existed from the time that, again, what we'll call the Nephilim and these things was created, and was running around going crazy, both here and beyond the so-called ice walls, where the seas were just vehicles and portals into other areas of their dominion. And it got to be just too much. So we entered into the covenant, right, with those who became Israel. Because remember, at one point there was no Israel. It was only Judah, right? And then because the Israelites was fighting amongst themselves, right, what did they do? They split their kingdom. Who did that? Solomon. Why? Because he had over 600 wives from 600 of the so-called heathen nations. What were those heathen nations? The Moabite nations, the Amorites, the Canaanites, anybody that wasn't considered Hebrew, i.e., one of those who crossed over from the polytheistic to the monotheistic. Everybody got it? Everybody understand? This is why you as a Moor today can be a Hebrew and an Amorite at the same time, right? Because remember, they had to dwell in the land of Moab, meaning they had to come amongst us, because nobody would have them when they got out of Egypt. This is also why we received permission from the pharaohs of so-called Egypt to resettle our lands, because we bounced from those lands and gave that to them. So now Egypt owed us for taking over the debt. You see what I'm saying? The burden of these so-called crossovers, of these that were crossed over, right? So some Hebrew Israelites will then try to diss us and say that we're descended from Cain, or we're descended from Lot. But the problem with that is Cain's line was wiped out. There was no Cain line after a certain point in the history, in their biblical history. Again, this is what we're talking about in this class, or what we're talking about right now, is the biblical understanding of prehistorical events that can and cannot be verified based upon the empirical evidence that exists, in the supposition that this modern world that we're in is really just a post-apocalyptic, post-deluge world that we are now moving past, right? Which means it's going to go back to turn itself into an Eden. That's what happens. We're not seeing things for what they are. We're seeing them for what we've been told that they are. So we of Moab made the covenant with those of Israel, right? Which was the Hebrews of the north, right? Because Judah was in the south, right? Judah's in the south, Israel's in the north, right? So when it says that we made the covenant with Israel, we made the covenant with the northern side, not Judah. Be careful to obey all these regulations I am giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. The Lord your God is different than the Lord thy God. You see, thou shouldest enter into a covenant with the Lord thy God, meaning your God, or you, right? Then here is, you have to obey the rules and regulations of the Lord your God. So somebody in class type in what the word thigh means. Thy. Yes, what we perceive as we're in the post-apocalyptic world. Everything after the 1800s is post-apocalyptic. Everything for us after the 1400s is post-apocalyptic. You have parts of the world of our kingdoms and stuff that didn't even know the rest of the empire had fallen. Right? One of the rules that they gave them, where it says that he that is wounded in the stones, or hath his privy member cut off, shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. So you know what that means? Surgeries, right? A certain type of surgery that's recruited for children. This is to cut them off from ever having to go to the thing, because that's part of your silver cord. So what we're talking about again is the covenant between, for ye that know how we have dwelt in the land of Egypt, and how we came through the nations which pass ye by. Remember, Israel was one of the last people to have the kingdoms. And once they had their kingdom, yes, they doomed. Once they had their kingdom, they messed it up. David went with Bathsheba, and look what happened with that, right? But what if David and this one was basically just repossessed by the disembodied spirit of Nimrod, and this one was the disembodied spirit of Bathsheba, was the disembodied spirit of Semiramis, which then replayed itself out again with Samson and Delilah. You see what I'm saying? Which replayed itself out again with Mark Antony and Cleopatra, which played itself out again with Othello and Desdemona. You see what I'm saying? You see the same pattern, right? Remember, these demons, these things, they can't create nothing new. They not really real. So this disembodied spirit now becomes the essence that the enemy seeks to gain wisdom from, to break this covenant we talking about right here, that was set up in Moab when we went and was given the energy weapons to go and shut these niggas down. And that's what we did. We all linked up, just like in Predator. You had the huge predators, right? Then you had the predator size under them, right? Who was hunting them. The big ones was hunting the smaller ones. And then the smaller ones was hunting the humans, right? And then what had to happen? The humans and the smaller ones had to link up so they could fight against the bigger ones. That's what happened. Isn't that what happened in Avatar? Same shit. Because it's the same story. This is what keep happening. Because the war with the ancient and the moderns take over the different forms, because it's the same disembodied spirits going at one another. These things couldn't die. So the ones that couldn't dig deep enough into the earth to escape what happened, right, and wind up dying, they couldn't go to the higher realm, the 11th, 12th dimension. They can't do none of that. They too heavy for that. These things were voracious eaters. They ate to the point where they just destroyed everything. They ate everything. Man, woman, child, animal. Like, it just got to a point it was too much. You can't sustain things like this. You understand? But this was the normal height. This was the normal aspect for us to live in, because the oxygen level was so high due to how many giant megafauna existed at the time. This part of the rainforest today, where you get in apricots and you get in fruits the size of like small cars and shit, to this day, the canopy is so deep you can't get in there. And you got tribes that's in there that they know that they don't even know. That people just disappear trying to go up in there with, they don't even know. And these are people with an army. Well, you figure they could just use fire and burn it down. They've tried. They've tried to burn the rainforest down. As soon as they do, it starts growing back. That's what they're not telling us. You could nuke the earth 1,000 times. It don't matter. Because nuclear energy is not even the heaviest element. You understand? This planet subsisted with entities that was so high and so big they never seen their feet. And the earth still sustained them. To the point that we walking on them now. We rock climbing on they carcasses now. Calling them mountains and shit. You dig? Like, this is what's really happening. And that gene, that Nephilitic gene kept going. And it's still here. Where do you think these giant basketball players and these black men and all of this is coming from? The Neolithic people. The Nilos. They stay trying to interbreed with the Nilos to keep them small in Africa. They're the tallest. Like the Rwandans, they're giants. Because they have the gene. We were set apart. So those of us that were gigantic, were not gigantic like that because of how we were culturally domesticated. All of these ancient rules and stuff that we was doing, you understand, we've been doing. It's just that we're in the cycle now where we forgot how it was to be done. And thus we fall victim to people retelling us the story in the wrong way. Like, look, this is an image of what I'm talking about. This allegedly is the colonists meeting the thing. Look at these niggas. These niggas is giants. Look at these niggas. Look at them looking at them. These are the slaves. These are what was read in the Deuteronomy verse. That's these dudes. Wait, let me read it. That's these dudes. Where it said, your little one's wife and thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the hewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water. See? What are the bays when you had these Virginian Bays Company and all that? What did they do? They're the ones that control the waterways, right? Remember, Stephen was the one in control of the plantation. Remember, what's his name? In Tyrone, the black man was the one who invented the whole process and got the white people and was basically running them, acting like their slave. Look at the movie The Banker. Remember, in The Banker, Sam Jackson is the one that owned all of the banks, all of the properties and shit, and he acted like the chauffeur for the white boy. Trained the white boy, put the white boy in position to go and get money from them other white people like we had been doing. That at the time was perceived as the parallel economy. That's how you did it. Because remember, we the ones that helped graft these people, bring them out of Khazaria and all of the bullshit that happened. So the gigantism and the shit that happened as them being descended from these fallen people, they're the ones that, again, we're the ones who inherited that because we were the ones who established the empire basically of Eden, let's say of righteousness, to manifest and keep everybody and keep everything in line. And we did. Up until the empire fell. And what did it fall to? It fell to these Moors who started to import. What they started to do was take these vrills. Now we're getting into territory that is what people would consider speculative. Okay. But if you read books like The Secret Cipher of the UFO Knots, if you read books like The Secret Origins of the Thule Society, if you read books by Kierkegaard and these types of people, you will see that part of white myth making, that white folk took the myth of the scientific method that applied to them and then expanded it and then created an institution to verify it to themselves and then forced the rest of the world to memorize their version of who and what they were, which then identify who and what we were. And we all did it. See, the Indians rejected the white man's food. They rejected, when I say Indians, I'm talking about the turban Indians now, right? The East Indians, because the East Indian also, up until, if you didn't know, 1935, an East Indian was somebody from South Carolina or the Southern or the Southern United States, if you didn't know. So that puts a whole new spin on that. But anyway, the Indians were the ones, the turban Indians were the ones who did not accept the white man's food. They did not accept the white man's direct education. They did not accept the white man's God. You understand? They did not accept the white man's dress. And by white man, I'm speaking of anybody that represented the colonial fashion, anybody that was internalizing a foreign power, dictating or creating dictates or mores over another. See, the Indians did not do that. The Indians rejected it. The only thing the Indians took from the white man was his structure in a sense of government and technology. Few people don't know this though, but between the time that the British left and about the 1960s, there was a huge industrial explosion of technology in India that the Indians, I don't think they even talk about to outsiders. This may have been the first time you heard about it, but there was an explosion. I would say really between like 1950 and like 1969. It was like a heavy thing where these niggas had robots. These niggas had like flying cars and shit. They was wilding in India, but they really kept it on the rack. They had like cybernetic implants in people. I'm dead ass. You just gotta look it up. They be concealing that. But look at this giant finger. Look at this black man's finger. Look how big this finger is. So you can extrapolate how huge the man was or how huge the titan was that this thing was. And this is a small one. This is a small one. Like these are small pictures. These ones, the ones that we got, these are small pictures. We ain't seen real pictures of what these niggas look like. So when we read comic books and shit like that, and we watch movies of like giants and fantasy and stuff like that, that's going to become more and more prevalent in thing, because more and more of these niggas are showing up. So that's the main thing that's happening now. So because they're doing it, they're rapidly losing support. They're rapidly losing power. So in a rapid power decline, what happens is you get a vacuum, you get a power vacuum, and you don't really want that, because the vacuum will create a circumstance where everybody now is subject to being a part of what this new thing is. And they can't afford that. They can't afford individualism. You see, but the idea of capitalism, see, the reason why capitalism was used by our people, or why our people invented capitalism, because it allowed us to create economies. You see what I'm saying? That, well, we even should use that term. It allowed us to create a greater sense of purpose that allowed the experience now of cross-cultural pollination, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Free commerce, free trade. I don't mean free trade like white people talking about colonial free trade. I'm talking about the free trade where we're not just bringing the knowledge, we're also exchanging cultural situations, like how how everybody thinks spaghetti came from Marco Polo, and he got that from China. You see what I'm saying? So really, spaghetti is a Chinese dish. You see what I'm saying? Yes, Hellboy was a part of that in there. So this aspect of us, like, you got to understand, when these things died and didn't have nowhere to go, their spirits would encircle or engender families who were trained genetically how to intone these spirits based upon whatever sacrificial satanic, what we would perceive as satanic ritual, when it's really just a code. It's a spiritual codex, binary codex, that allows them to triangulate how to come back into this reality in a specific vessel. That's why they have to use a pentagram, which is like the map, and they have to use the body on the map, which is like the protractor. You understand? And so forth and so on. So in some instances, like in the case of somebody like Hitler, let's say, or Napoleon even, this person is very small, but in him being so small, he has this great gigantic influence over the world, because, but based upon the amount of evil that was brought from this person, you can see that it was still coming from a malevolent entity, you see what I'm saying, that helped provide and open up the doors to help this happen, because that's the only way these things can exist. Like in the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington. You understand? That's what you're dealing with. So like with the slut rap right now, you got Sexy Red, you got Sexy Red, you got what's her name? you know, the usual suspects. You got all of them there. And if you look at them all, they all basically are the same person. Sukihana, yeah. They got Sexy Red, Sukihana, Cardi B, Glorilla, right? Meg Thee Stallion, right? But really look at them all. Like if you was to really just look at them, you'll see that they're all basically the same entity. They rap about the same thing. They talk about the same thing. They have the same type of jewelry on. They wear the same lack of clothes, right? They use the same language, right? Because they're the same entity. They're not, let's say, different. They're literally the same because they're channeling the same. How do you say? They're channeling the same demonic spirit. But what we perceive as a demonic spirit today would be considered in modern times would be like an AI, because that's what AIs are. It's just now, instead of having a satanic ritual to bring them through, you just needed the right computer code. And now they can answer whatever questions and stuff they have, because all they have is information about us from the beginning of what we perceive time, right? But in essence, what is really time? Time is just the slow down reaction of us putting off the inevitability of what we perceive as death. Let's watch this movie called Waking Life, this animated movie called Waking Life. And basically it sums up the same idea, that this whole experience that we're in, some people want to produce it or reduce it to a specific timeline. Like Philip K. Dick believed that everything that's happening now is in, that we're really all in 50 AD. You know what I mean? Living out the destruction of Israel through the book of Acts. Right? That's a real hypothesis. People, especially people who are really into Philip K. Dick, they really believe that shit. When in actuality, we're probably just in the primordial moment of creation itself, waiting to accept what real manifestation is. But we keep putting it off because we like the distractions that were created for us by those who weren't even supposed to be here in the first place. You understand? That's why entertainment is used as a means of control over our people, and why entertainers will always be lauded over mental giants in our community. You understand? See, the thing about the giants, like I said, when they talk about the ancient world and, you know, who built the pyramids and how they was built to the perfection and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff is kind of self-evident. There's lasers that you can use that can cut stone at the same precision, right? So long as you have the, let's say you have a three, like you have a 3D printer, that's what this technology is based on. Where you have a 3D printer, but instead of it printing plastic, it print on paper. So you draw out what you want, and then you do that. Or you have a sonic resonator that you attune to a certain frequency that literally brings the dirt up out the ground in the geometric form that you want, in the pattern you want. That's called somatic frequency theory. Like if you get some sand and you put it on a speaker and then you turn the speaker on and the sand start to take different geometric shapes. You know what they showed you this in the beginning of Game of Thrones. Look at the beginning of Game of Thrones. It shows you exactly how all these buildings was made. They literally are coming out of the ground after they put this device on the ground. Go back and watch it. They be telling us. We just don't be known. Because like I said, everything they're going to give it to us is going to come through the entertainment. Look at what I'm showing you. All of these images of these giants came from what? From the paper, from entertainment magazines, from the newspaper. Look, Jet. You see what I'm saying? It's always coming to you from the media. That's why they discourage libraries. This is why they want to get out of that type of shit. Yeah, because the old world tech is the old ancient, what you call it, tech, man. When they talk about the old Tatarian, barbarian tech and all of that, they talking about that. Us. How we built it. But some of it was also inherited. Some of it was here before we all got here. Some of it was here before they got here. Before the damn giants got here. Before there was even a giant walking the earth, there was shit bigger than them that was living in giant shit that we wouldn't even know. That's what I'm saying. It's history, you go through a phase where everything is big, then it starts to scale down. And then it gets all the way down till it gets almost microscopic, and then it starts to go up and get big again. That's what's happening to us right now. That's what's happening to us right now. We winning. The earth is getting rid of this dude. He done washed away all the white people at Burning Man. You know how many rituals they would do at Burning Man every year since they started that shit? You gotta understand, man. We had a thriving society over here. We already had land. We already had a government. It was all being run by us. Look, this was the Cherokee Palace, or what they call the Ananawea Palace, what they call the Corn Palace. This is where our nobility lived, and eventually they shut it down and turned it into a crowd attraction. This was from the Mohawks, and the Mohawks, the Mohegans, anything Mo in it was Moors. You understand? Anything Turner, anything with Turner on it, those was Moors. Okay? The oldest queen of the whole thing was a Turner. She was a Moor who was receiving treaties and gifts from the King of England. Why would he send a dirty Siberian chick that lived in a wigwam in a wiki up, right? Dressed in deerskin and shit. Why would he be sending her any type of silver anything? Why would he do that? Because they wasn't like that. Look, the praying Indians promised their endeavors to reconcile their brethren, the Mohawks, to the French, on whom the French expected they would have much influence, but their endeavors proving ineffectual, their correspondence began to be suspected. The French thought they did more hurt than good by the intelligence. Look, the French surprise and take 3 Mohawk castles. You see why the French gotta go? You see? But who was the French? People still really don't know. You understand? Because the original French Huguenots, those were Moors. Those were the descendants. One of their descendants was George Washington. According to that treatise, he was melanated. So again, somebody lying. But they're giving us the history based upon the fiction that was given to us by their compatriots. Look, it can all go back to this nigga. See that? Nate Salsbury's Black America, Part 1, Points West Online. Okay? Points West Magazine. Okay? In spring 1895, Nate Salsbury, Buffalo Bill, and the partners in the Wild Wild West extravaganza masterminded an extraordinary new entertainment featuring hundreds of theatrical musical performers, imaginative scenery, and educational historic programming that rivaled the Western exhibition. Salisbury applied his experience gained from molding the Wild Wild West into the era's most popular outdoor attraction to showcase look at the line. Whenever there's a line, what do they let you know? That is some lying going on, some hiding going on. To showcase pre-Civil War lives of Negroes. See, they put the line in front of it though, right? Look, yeah, one part of that was France, what we call Louisiana. That's old France or old Paris and all that shit. Look, educational programming. Okay, look, to showcase pre-Civil War lives of Negroes. So this is entertainment. Look, educational historical programming that rivaled the Western exhibition. So none of it's real. Salisbury applied his experience gained from molding the Wild Wild West into the era's most popular outdoor attractions. Now he takes that same propaganda to showcase the pre-Civil War lives of Negroes. Okay? He called the new program what? Black America. Islam? Just as the Wild West depicted a rapidly disappearing frontier, Black America would represent the bygone antebellum era. Northerners were acquainted with the period only through published accounts of slavery and plantation life that they read. Does that sound familiar? That's like you today. That's like you today. You was never enslaved. You was never put under no plantation to pick cotton and shit, right? But you reading about niggas that did it a generation before and almost 5 generations before that. They had to be shown this because those people were told about some shit that they heard about but never seen, but seen through books. Do you see what I'm saying? Look, slavery and plantation life they read or by hearing, look, garbled stories, lies of life south of the Mason-Dixon line. Look, Mason and Dixon, we get to them in a minute. How then did Salisbury, a white soldier turned actor, become a purveyor of Negro culture, history, and music? Does anybody know? Because this is the father of Black America. This is your cultural father, Moors. Excuse me, Blacks. This is your father. Look, born in Freeport, Illinois in 1846. So that means before this nigga did anything, there was no such thing as Black America. And there was no such thing. Yeah, we're going to get to the Salisbury steak in a minute. But you good. You quick. I like that. Yes, his youthful singing and dancing relieved the tedium of army life together with the vibrant personality, making vibrant beyond his unit, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the Negro shit, right? Then he partnered with Buffalo Bill. Now, Buffalo Bill, remember, they used him to make everybody believe that the Siberian squatters were the original owners of the land and were the original Indians, right? So that's one side. Right? Look, the Salisbury Troubadours. Look. Look, see, back then they had two lines through the money because it was still backed by gold. Now they don't even use that symbol. Nobody's ever done it before. It's the greatest show idea yet. We'll tell the story of the West with cowboys, Indians, buffalo, bucking horses, and not on a stage of theater, but in the outdoors. It will be like a circus, yet not a circus. It will be lifelike and true in every detail. Look where it's going. Then the Rough Riders. Remember who was the most famous Rough Rider? Y'all, do y'all know? Yes, Big Teddy Roosevelt. That's right. Who was allegedly out there shooting and killing Indians? No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He was doing that through the show. He was doing that as a skilled horseman. You understand? Look, here you go. The exhibit featured skilled horsemen from Europe and South America. Sioux Indians, U.S. soldiers included black buffalo soldiers, so named for their hair, thought to resemble the buffalo hide, and cowboys. Actors. Ads promised the audience all kind of colors, all tongues, all men, fraternally, mixing in the picturesque racial camp. This is where modern United States racism, modern United States racial politics, modern United States blacks at the bottom shit. This is where it started as an educational play that was then overlaid and the actors were put into real environments and made real people believe that the shit they was saying was actually true when it was the opposite. Up until this point, niggas never heard about no slaves and no shit like that. It was all lies. Yeah. In his book, Slavery on Stage. Get that book. Get this book. It says what it is. Slavery on Stage, Black Stereotypes and Opportunities in Nate Salsbury Black America Show. What does it say? It says whether the dispirited troop contributed to the dispelling of racial prejudices is unknown. But as Fick notes, it suggests that Salisbury believed in the marketability, if not the actuality, of such statements. See, look, staging Black America. What is a stage? A stage is a play. It's not real. So when you say staging Black America, what are you saying? You're saying that Black America is a stage. And on the stage, all of the Negroes are players. Theories abound as how and why Black America came to be. Cody's plea for funds may have enticed Salisbury off his sickbed to develop an exhibit that would generate badly needed income. Yes, this is what I'm saying. This theater was applied to all theater, where all of the wars became fucking theater, where they all was fake, making real people believe in fake shit. I just showed you where the swastika came from. So how it wound up in Germany when it was on the side of the corn palace of the antediluvian nation? Who were they really fighting? Anyway, Salisbury and Cody toured the show in eastern and southern states, far from its western roots. 2 years previously, ethnic villages displayed the custom dress and talents of various countries at the world fairs. This is where the world fairs come in, because these are all the confiscated lands after the deluge, after we lost the war, after all of us was cut off from each other in our separate dominions. Now these niggas could start coming in and setting up shop. Yes, when you engage in war, it's called theater. And an entire war is, and when the whole situation is that, it becomes a theater of war. But a theater is something that is played, not lived. It is something that is acted or is presumed to be acted. So, in the very context of the word, they letting you know this is all bullshit, right? So boom, when a reporter asked how he envisioned a show for in which 500 Negroes would sing, dance, and perform in a tableau inspired of the pre-war South, Salisbury said he had two motives: to give a great performance of ethnological value, and because I wanted something that should be purely national in color and novelty. Meaning, I wanted the national people to become the colored and the novelty for the world, as now we're taking over. We're taking their place, and we're going to make them look like fucking fools from this point on. Because I, like most white people in the North, had never been in the South. So we're taking all of the stereotypes that we have of the Negroes and of these people. We're going to even start calling them Negroes. And we're going to basically make a whole thing to make generations of them believe that this is their history through singing and dancing entertainment. Because now the white people believe that these noble Moors that own these palaces and all this type of shit believe that they were slaves. So of course they don't deserve what they got. We was just free. So now all of this should be ours. You see? In the pre-war South, Salisbury said he had two motives: to be purely national in color and novelty. And aren't we the colored novelty of the United States today? Ain't we? Look, Ambrose Park, 500 black men, women, and children collected from all parts of America who will be employed in the gigantic exhibition of Negro life and character. For the first time in history in the country, the Negro as he really is. But what is a Negro? It's something that did not exist. It's something that was codified, right? And created by racist so-called white men that were trying to create a history in which they could justify the 700 and plus years that we had established government and shit over here without them. So they had to say that we came from somewhere else and had to get people that looked like us to help perpetuate the idea. So here come Frederick Douglass. This is from Brooklyn in 1895. Another report had Salisbury mingling with other showmen in New York's Actors Club, mentioning his idea of an all-colored musical program, according to Harry Tarleton, who would become the show's stage manager, and other men said it would be done. The idea came to him some years ago, making the tour of the southern states, familiarized himself with during the war. See? Familiarized himself during the war with the colored race. So we won the war, and after the war, the way that they was able to usurp everything was to destroy our image through entertainment. You understand? And then give other people our designations, like the Siberians, Chinese, that they call Native Americans or First Nation niggas today. That's why they lock them up the way that they do, and why they also racist against us. Because everybody assumed a piece of our identities and took and created whole nations on them. That's where the French came from. In his book, 100 Years of the Negro in Show Business, veteran showman Tom Fletcher attributed his show genesis not to Salisbury at all, but to Billy McLean, a black comedian and musician. Why you think the first pig meat, what was it, pig meat Markle, or one of them, the first one to get on the thing, the first like rap and songs that they was doing was so pornographic and so crazy because that was so outside of where the greater society was that it generated a place for these people to do that and make money the same way they doing today, making us look like fools. That's what Bamboozled and all that shit was really about. That was the easy way because they knew that the more they broke down our image globally, the more they made us look like minstrels globally, the less people would believe that we actually still maintaining the American government, which made it easy for the coup d'etat of 1871 and the establishment of the KKK, which then went to further the terrorist organization, which then helped the laws create the Jim Crow situation. But remember, all of that was based on a lie. Nobody remembers nobody is alive that lived during the Civil War, son. So how they really know what it was fought over, who said what, who died for what? How you really know when everybody died? Everybody that could have lived during that time that told us exactly what happened is dead. So we're going back now in archives and we're trusting what these niggas say about what happened. And I'm showing you that Black America is a damn stage play. And that Frederick Douglass, John Box Brown, Harriet Tubman, Booker T. Washington, who may or may not have been Teddy Roosevelt, right? All these niggas came out of a goddamn stage show. So that means all of this Black history shit is crazy. Look. Now, analogous to them, you had this dude. You know who this is, right? You know who this is, right? No, this is P.T. Barnum. Barnum and Bailey. This is P.T. Barnum right here. So you had the Black Circus, right? That was working analogous to that. That was ran by these two so-called black men that employed all of these freak, extricated, white people. And then you had Wild Bill and these niggas that was basically using their international white connections to basically box that out to the point that we believe that Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey is all white people today when they was not. But they was white in terms of the cast. You see what I'm saying? In terms of how much money they was able to flip. Exactly. Exactly. Stunting even back then with the horseshoe, right? Which is a Moorish thing, which is a Moorish custom. Yeah, so that's fake. So this is why they try to put the prophet in when that Jew, right? When that Jewish dude, this Hebrew dude wrote this blasphemous book about called The Princess and the Prophet. And when you really read it, and when they're trying to associate the prophet with this guy William Biggs or whatever his name is, but you could look at the actual picture of the person in the book and see it's two different people. This nigga you talking about may have done all of that, but this guy you showing me is not the prophet. So this whole book is full of shit then. It's not him. This dude in this picture that you're saying is the prophet got a thyroid problem. The prophet eye was big, but he obviously did not have a thyroid issue like this nigga you showing me, who was in the circus as a whatever, troubadour or whatever. And again, it's coming to me from a Jew, so a Jewish dude. So I'm not going to just take it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking that shit as face value. None of us should, because it's fake. Everything they telling us historically is fake. It's not real. Look, this is the father. This is the nigga that wrote This is where the word Negro comes from. Again, and all of these are copyrighted words. So you got to understand that the reason why the white man could lock you up for saying that you could cure cancer and you could cure herpes and you could cure all of these different things, even if you can do it, is not because you can do it. It's because you're using those words to describe what you're going to cure. And that's the problem. He has a patent and a copyright on those words. So when you use those words, he's really coming at you for copyright infringement, which you did by using those words. So if you want to cure cancer, you can't use the word cancer to cure it. You got to use the basic understanding of what cancer is, you see, and talk about curing that. He can't do nothing with that. This is the father of afrocentrism. This is the first generation of so-called blacks given this anthropological idea of the coming out of Africa theory and all this other shit coming to you from a Jew, from a Jewish person. Another Jewish person telling you about your history. When these niggas when we just read about Salisbury, and it says that they had no knowledge of what plantation life and none of that shit was really like. We just read it. Because if they did, they would be able to speak about it accurately, but they can't. So you know what that means? That means everything that we know about slavery life is coming to us from this goddamn play. Which means these niggas that they tell us is the members or the faces of the black history or whatever you're trying to say may or may not, or most likely were actors. They're all actors who were propagandists working for an entertainment entity that would eventually become what we call Hollywood, to then perpetuate an idea or a myth. See, the myth of the Negro past, a classic work on the African heritage in the New World. So look at that. This book is a classic work on African heritage in the New World. Then it says the myth of the Negro past. So right here, you're saying that Africans are associated with Negroes, and both of those are myths. With a new introduction by Sidney W. Mintz, another Jewish person. Who started the NAACP? Jewish people and black people. And who was those black people? Ida B. Wells, who always seemed to know when somebody was going to get lynched. Y'all don't find that suspicious? This bitch always know how many people getting lynched in the South, and she live in Harlem. Where's she getting the info from? Wasn't no internet then. Who was telling her? How she knew as soon as it happened to put it up? Again, myth of a Negro past. Look at what they did to us. Look at what they doing to us. It's another fake narrative history. And it makes more sense now that they doing that to us now. Look. His comments indicate that Cody expected Black America to consist of the colossal number of 1,000 performers. His wish was for a program bigger and better than even the Wild Wild West, meant that Salisbury, nearly an invalid, would be managing 400 or more people, then were eventually numbered among the cast. Look at this. The American institution passing into oblivion, and the same creative mind that placed the Wild Wild Western life in the midst of civilization, aided by his partner, Mr. Nate Salsbury, also determined that the plantation days in Dixie in the antebellum era should be seen as it really was by the present generation before the last of those who lived in slavery days should pass away to be seen no more. See, we're going to change what the history really happened. We're going to change the fact that y'all niggas won by showing y'all that y'all started as slaves and we was the one owning y'all, when it was the exact opposite. It was the opposite. They invented this Black history shit. The Afro-American in all his phases, from simplicity of the Southern field hand to his evolution as the Northern aspirant for professional honors and his martial ambition as a soldier, a profession in which he has acquired the inevitable record. See? See? Mr. Salisbury, they invented Black history. It don't exist. These niggas, let me get the other father of your Black liberation history movement. Because what they did then was they took all these niggas, they put these niggas in, put people like John Box Brown into the medium, into the public, around regular so-called Black people, regular so-called white people and shit, got them together, built with them, let them believe that they were slaves and all this other fake shit, put it in books, put it in shit like that. Then by the time they set up in 1871, the KKK shit, now they got an ample reason to familiarize these people with this hate from this terrorist group, and they not realizing this is all really about displacing the original government, the original people, making the winners of the Civil War the losers in the movie. Just like they always making movies about what if the Nazis won? What if there was an alternate reality where the Nazis was able to win and all of this bullshit? What if there was an alternate reality where the Confederate States won? Ain't they always making movies like that? Making movies to create the alternate version of what really happened. Look at this white man giving them their history. Look at the white man giving these people their history, literally. These are the books that says who you are. Look at these Moors. They probably don't even know what he's talking about. They probably got this white man here. He probably asking them for knowledge and shit like that or whatever. And now he trying to show how he giving them back the books, what he did with the knowledge to make us stupid over here. Look at these niggas. Look at these niggas in fezzes. Look at all these niggas is fezzed out. You think they really give a damn what this niggas say? Told you, all the original people, the original European colonizers, all of them was melanated people. All of them was warlords and shit from Europe. Blacks from Europe. Running shit, used to running shit. So then once they got enough blacks in the medium to start believing all of the bullshit and start creating all the racial tension, start making the white people believe that they own niggas like that, right? Because that's what they're doing. Remember, we read it. It says they had no knowledge of what it was really like because all of them niggas died off. So they invented this shit. Literally. Then they got your boy, right? They got your boy right here to come along, right? Start up his shit for the Negro race now. Now look where the Negro started. The Negro started from the Wild Wild West show. We just read that. We just read it. From the Stage in Black America show, we get the idea. We now link up the Black, the African, and the Negro. It's all linked up through the edutainment, right? Then this nigga now goes in real life and starts calling regular black people who got their own country, got their own schools, their own hospitals. Didn't we have all of this when Marcus Garvey was doing shit? And what was happening? White people didn't have nothing. Them niggas was living in shacks. Them niggas was all destitute, right? All of the Southerners was destitute after the Civil War, right? The white boys, right? That's what the Lost Cause movement was about. They had nothing. The blacks were the ones that had to thrive in towns and all that shit, to the point that the white people had to come and burn the shit down. But what instigated them to do that? The false history, the birth of a nation, the Wild Wild West show, all of the entertainment, the Penny Dreadful novels that they was reading. Gas these niggas up to now go and get revenge for losing the Civil War to us. That's why the northern so-called blacks, so the northern people in power, had to send the white troops from the north down to the south to escort the black people in and out of school, right? Because the black agitators had already got down there and convinced them people that they was oppressed, that they didn't have no real knowledge, that they was out here getting killed by the other side of the actors, who was the niggas running the KKK and all that shit. This nigga's people, Plecler's people. But Plecler allegedly hated black people. So why is he standing right behind and right next to Marcus Garvey? Did you know in certain circles, Marcus Garvey was referred to as the Marquis of Salisbury? Look it up. Think about it. What is the Salisbury steak? So named for this person. It's not a steak at all. It's a bunch of substitute meats lumped together to make the appearance of an actual full steak. It's mutton. It's not even a real burger. It's a bunch of different shit. Certain Salisbury steaks, they be throwing corn in the shit. You understand? So think about that symbolically, what that means when it comes to this nigga. So now he done convinced all the original Mohawkins who had their castles, all the original Moors, American Indians. We already got our land. We won the Civil War. We ran the white people out, right? So then there's a coup d'etat in 1871, and then they set up the KKK to reinforce this doctrine that we're Negroes, blacks, colors, and because all of these white people have been thoroughly programmed through the Wild Wild West shows, right? And all of the other bullshit that they done been through, they think they justified to come over here and kill us and do the shit they doing. This is what happened. Yeah, same difference. Same thing, and they doing the same thing to the more to the melanated people and everybody today. They doing the same thing. Remember, at one point, the word Moor also meant Westerner, right? Or people from the West. So we talk about us. We talking about us. And all the shit that we've been doing over here. And they had to get rid of that in order for us to fall under a fictitious nationality that they could use as a means of controlling us. And then once they got us out of the nationality, and it wouldn't only just be us as we the people, they now could apply it to whoever could represent or agree to go along with the scam. The scam being, we all came over here as slaves from Africa. So that way, once we sign up for that, we lose ability to control the land that we have here. Then through the American Colonial Society that was set up again by blacks and Jews, that was able to now use that to now move black people from one side of the world to the other, and then move the so-called interloper, the so-called free slave, the free white slaves into this new position. And then those of us that didn't go along with it would have to be fought and burnt out. So this is where the KKK comes in, as well as the other so-called organizations that were used to terrorize and black people. And then that's when the racial riots started. That's when they went and they started, like I showed you, the coup d'etat of North Carolina after the war. And they 1871 started bringing everybody in and shutting them down by force, and then put everybody under the Reconstruction Act, which was another fallacy, right? Because you had dirty European Moors that were working with dirty free white slaves who were under them in the Freemasonry, And they agreed that they would act as the master minor and the minor major. The minor major and the major minor. He would act as the butler and he would act as the master. Yes, it's all an act. It's all acting. All these niggas is acting. Look at Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton went from being a big civil rights leader to now what is he doing? He is a host on CNN. Look at what I'm saying. But in between that, he was also an informant against the mob for the FBI. Do you see what I'm saying? Go to the biggest three modeling and acting agency representation houses. And what you're gonna see, is what you call it, is everybody's an actor. Everybody has an agent. Trump is an actor. They're all actors. Everybody is represented by them that's on TV. Everybody. Just pick you could pick any person. Look them up on that thing. They don't even have to be acting. I'm talking about Elon Musk. I'm talking about billionaires, millionaires, everybody. They all gonna be listed as actors on the shit. Because they're all working in concert against the real human, the real man and woman of the earth. And that's us. It's all a show. None of it's real. Black history, all that shit they showing us is fake. That's why they go so extreme a lot of the times with the hate, with the how do you say that's why they go so hard with the racial situation all the time. Because that's how they were able to build up what they perceived as Black America to put them at a perpetual deficit. You understand? So that way they can always be at odds with their society. And they worked with Africans and Chinese people and other people in the world to do this. You understand? That's why niggas like these black so-called Pan-Africanists and these niggas, they all scammers. Because there is no such thing as Pan-Africanism. The Africans can't even get along with themselves. Look at what's happening with ECOWAS and the rest of the country. These were the Indians in Elvis's time. Elvis said he wanted to do a joint with real, a little clip or a movie with real Indians, and all of these Indians showed up. This is what the Indians looked like in Elvis' time. Because those is the people who own the towns and own the leases and own all of the shit. The white people was just there as the corporate citizens. They were under the jurisdiction of the county. The black people who lived outside the county didn't receive federal funding, so they were independent of the county, which gave them autonomy over the county. You see? So they had to bring Negroes into the county, so they started the lynching shits. To basically think, you would think it would be to keep them out. No, they wanted them to run to law enforcement, to keep going to law enforcement, which was ran by the municipality, which would then give the municipality the right now to come onto their outside land that wasn't a part of the county's jurisdiction and bring them into it. And then once they're brought into the jurisdiction of the county, they stop calling them Moors or American Indians. They start listing them in the census as black. They start putting them under the afrocentric situation, and now they all enslaved. You see? Genocide. Look, this how deep it was at one point with us, with this shit, with identity. Yes, sir. The afro is going to be, because all of this is after the show. That's when race became the thing to use. Here's how the ballot stands by the end of the week. Negro, look, 769. See, because that's what they was pushing everybody into. Colored, 486. Ain't those the two most used? Wasn't those the two most used during the civil rights era? Negro and colored, right? Look, American, 6. Ethiopian, 4. American Negro, 4. Moorish American, 3. See, we was trying to be Moorish Americans back then, and these niggas was still hating. Look, polynationals, colored American, ethnic American, black, colored Negro, original Negro, black American, nations, all others. All of this is a result from the Salisbury situation. And eventually these niggas settled on Negro and colored. So Negro was for those blacks that also have foreign-born blacks. One of they black foreign-born black was a parent, or it could be a what you call it, somebody with no knowledge of self. A colored was somebody that had a nationality prior to them being forced under this racial ballot shit. See, 1,352 ballots were cast in the telegraphic voting game. See? Game. This wasn't even supposed to be real. The standing shows Negro ballots are 57% of all votes cast. The ballots are 36% and all ballots over 7%. Strangely enough, those were the identical percentages in the standing last week. Because it's a scam. This is what they was trying to move niggas directly into. So we would start degenerating ourselves. So we would start identifying with shit that was owned by them. So then we would fall under their copyright, their patent. So we will always be perpetual property, and they will always have jurisdiction over the CUSIP numbers and the trust and all of that shit from all of the banking shit that they stole from us during all of the upheavals that happened between the time that they came into power. This is why blacks are so messed up, because all of our history is based on ignorance and buffoonery and minstrel shit that had nothing to do with us, and it was invented by a white man. So wouldn't it be interesting still today that a white man named, I forget who owns the trademark, but you could look up this trademark right here for African American. The African American trademark was assigned a serial number 869-79951 by the United States Patent Office. I think the dude's name is Charles M. Young. Look, the African American mark is filed in the category of meats and processed food products. You heard that? The African American trademark is filed in the same category as meats and processed food products. Yes, the delectable Negro. You see how it all come full circle? Yes, more. Yes. Yes, Soylent Green is people. Yes. And all of these Negro entertainers, Negro actors, Negro whatever, these are the ones that perpetuate the story on us. They are working with the collaborator, whether they know it or not, to perpetuate false histories that did not exist with our people. We was not the ones that lost the war. We actually won. That's what I'm seeing. We won. And then they flipped the coup d'etat in 1871 that coincided with the shit I'm showing you now. And they were able to use the propaganda machine to then create a circumstance by which Mr. Salisbury and Wild Bill could then perpetuate who was going to be the Negro, who was going to be the Indian, who was going to be the white man, who was going to be the this, and who was going to be the that, right? Then they created a whole circumstance, because remember, the people that they bringing in may not have even been human. Why you say that, Aseer? Well, because remember, they're programming these people. They're programming these new white people that have been enslaved for their entire existence into a new understanding of what the world is supposed to be, in which now they are in control. And that these buildings that they're going to move into are going to be theirs. And, this is the new history for them. And that they fought for their country and all of this bullshit. This is what they were taught. This is what the white people were taught. Okay. Now, remember when you and I grew up, was kids. Remember when these came out? Do you remember when these things came out? Yeah. Okay. Y'all remember this? Right. Well, the story with this kid was that he discovered the secret cabbage patch after he fell into a well or some shit, and then went into a secret land where there were all of these babies that were being born out of cabbage patches, and that there was an evil witch who it was an evil witch who was there, and she was trying to get them to go into another place. And I think the witch's name was Bay. And they were trying to bring these children into another place to do work in these factories. Now remember, all of these factories was done back in the day through child labor. And there were no child labor laws back in the day. And the other thing was that they were all watched over by the stork. And remember, they used to say that the stork was the one that used to bring the babies, right? Remember they used to say that? Well, look, man, there was hundreds of pictures like this. Look. Look, where's all of these children coming from? Look, where was they all coming from? Look, on the orphan trains. See the trains? See them coming, just being born out of the dirt? Look, these are the ones that they educated with the plays. These are the ones, because these was the ones doing all of the work for them. Look, coming out of trees, coming out of holes in the ground. Polar Express, yes. Look, we're the parents. Always around swans and shit. What was this about? And there's really no information on this period, which is really funny. Look. Exactly, my dude. These are the clones that they used to overrun us. When they talked about attacking the clones of Star Wars, this was them. And then they re-educated them with the plays and started having these niggas around us. And then when they started to grow to a certain age and they couldn't control them, they put them to work in war. Look at this shit. That's why they were so eager to take it. That's why they adopted it so well. You understand? Because when these people got here after the Reconstruction, there was nothing left. Like they blew up half the damn country. Remember? That's why you had to adopt them. That's why they was all orphans, because these was the ones that they was creating. And they used them to repopulate the lands that they had bombed us out of. That's why it was all of these children. And wherever the children needed to go, they just sent them via the trains. Who built the railroads? Rockefeller, right? So this was a one big corporate venture to repopulate the world with these clones. Because this don't make sense. And there's no like information on what these postcards and things was really about. Look at this shit. where you could go and watch children being incubated. Yes. Come on now. Come on now. Look at this shit. Yes, those are the slave ships. When we see the transatlantic ships of the Europeans getting off the ships, those are the slave ships, man. So just like a Salisbury steak, this shit is fake. The history that they've given us on all of this is fake. These white people may or may not even be what we think they are. They may just be these ones, especially the ones that came around the turn of the century. I'm showing you. Because that's where all of these pictures come from. And they all around the time of the Wild Wild West show. And like I said, Cabbage Patch Kids, everybody remember how big Cabbage Patch Kids was, where you could go and you could go to the place where you could adopt them, remember? Remember you could do that? Them shits was going for $300, $400. Them shits was bread, B. You have to have bread to have Cabbage Patch Kids back then. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, it's all fake though. This whole thing happening with Trump and all of that, this might have happened to get him to get the people to see how bad things really are. But at the same time, um, that may also be part of the game. Maybe he's the Antichrist. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they setting him up to be that. You don't know. You don't know. And they're going by their biblical situation. So I just showed you how that works and what that's based on and who actually held the covenant longer than the people who's doing it now. So when the Israelites come out and say, oh, the Moors is this and the Moors is that, like, you got to understand, and we were so about it that we at one point was picking the kings of Judah because they were that disorganized. We were called the Pahath Moab. Look that up. That's where the word Pasha comes from. So, yeah, the elder kings, the Pasha, the Pahath Moab, right? The Eber kings. This chick is the one that's running the country. This is the bitch running the country now. She is the daughter, secret daughter of this bitch. That's why they doing a movie about her. You see, this is Golda. Golda was a ghoul. She was one of the most mass murdering niggas in the early establishment of Israel. But you know, they always turn they Satanists into heroes. And Helen Mirren is a high degree Freemason. She a high 33rd and 3rd degree Freemason in real life. Helen Mirren. Yeah, so this is who's really running the country. This bitch got ran out of Africa though. They threatened to shoot her plane down if she come back. So it's pretty much a wrap. They getting kicked out of Africa. Anybody else? Yeah, that's called American Gothic, that painting. Anybody else have any questions? Also, you got to remember when they was talking about, you know, yeah, it's well, nah, I was gonna say it's all based on the blood. Like I said, they use Marcus Garvey to get blacks to be that. That's why the prophet, when he came, he freaked it and started telling Moors that they're not Negro, black, and colored, right? That they're Moors. And that when the European got here, see, he was undoing all of the bullshit that Garvey did without publicly dissing them. See the difference between how Moors moved back then and how they move now? And was able to take all those Garveyites that had been misled and made a parallel organization to the KKK, because that's how they set them up. That's how Malcolm family got killed, right? It set them up to do that. And the prophet came and flipped it. And so they sent dirty Moors and dirty Negroes into his organization to get rid of him. And thus they did split the organization into the point now where you got Moors that's out here defending what these dirty those who say they are Jews and are not of the so-called black community is out here doing, saying about him. You got Moors that's going over there to Arabia to worship Ishtar, aka Alat, right? Because that's the idol. That's the black dress that's on top of the stone. That's why they put their female in an all black dress, just like so they can match the stone. But both of those are idols. You understand? Which goes against what they actually say Allah's supposed to be. That's how you know we different. We serve in a different situation. That's why we Muslims. That's why the law said that we fulfill the will of Allah. We talking about will. We talking about will and testament based on the blood, not to be slaves or the muscle of Allah, right? Who is really Allah, who is really Semiramis, who is really the harlot of Babylon. They version of it. That's why they so extreme. That's why we not supposed to be Muslims the way that they are. That's their version of it. And that version is going all the way back to when the ancient Canaanites, like I said, was on that bullshit and we split. So there was a lot of Moors and us that broke away from that and was going back to the original root, knowing that Allah exists in the heart. That's the arm, leg, arm, head. True Islam, not this fake shit that they got us worshiping now, where you gotta pray 5 times a day and do all of this other shit. I mean, if you want to do that, cool. But your Quran says that worship of Allah is worth more than knowledge of Allah is worth more than prayer. One learned man is worth more than 1,000 worshipers. That every aspect of the Bible is true. Like this is what it say in the Quran. So, anybody else have any questions? Also, this is the real Mark Twain on your left, Mr. Samuel Longhorn Clemens. You could look him up online. That's the real Mark Twain. This is just the white decoy that they use, like they always do with shit like that back in the days. But yeah, look up Mr. Longhorn Clemens. This is the real Mark Twain. Another actor. But when you read that now, it makes more sense. Read Mark Twain now from the perspective that this is the author, not this one, and see how much more sense it makes to you. The immigrant situation is to send saboteurs into the country under the guise of refugees and asylums to help further destabilize the infrastructure of the country. And number one, and then number two, to hopefully get enough of them to sympathize with the people who brought them over here, which is the Democrats, who want to make it so that way you don't need ID to vote, so that way they can hopefully get as much as these immigrants that they brought over here illegally to vote for them. So again, that's to destabilize the country. The BRIC society is going in on what they need to, and they're creating a parallel economy outside the US. So that means that you just need to establish a parallel economy for you outside the US. Do the same that they doing, but you do it through your trust. You don't do it as an individual. So this way you can't be seen as trying to do business with the enemy or some bullshit. You set up your own situation, set up your own trust, set up your own holding company, management company, these things to be able to do your interface business so that way it's not in your name as a US citizen. And then consolidate all of those things under a certain branch. So this way now you can insure them and now use the very same system to accumulate the wealth based upon what they already owe you. Because you can basically establish your trust with an injunction. You see what I'm saying? That says what you can do and what they can do and what the trust can do and all of that. You could do all of that in the beginning of it. So this way, once it's properly filed and you have that pumping and then it's backed up by an insurance claim, now you really moving. Now you can start to use your entities to do business on your behalf. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, they're gonna try to do the thing with the jab, but I don't. It's really not gonna work. That's why they did this Burning Man thing. They want to infect as much as them people and then send them back home and see how they can spread it. But again, Alex Jones and these niggas beat them to it. So because the people already know, they don't have no way to spring it. So they might want to do it, but it's really not gonna have the effect that they want because not niggas is not gonna go for it no more. So they're gonna have to really turn it up into something. They got too many fires burning at one time to make that happen. So whatever they're trying to do through the WHO and all of that, it's not gonna work. Like I said, it's a Salisbury steak. It's supposed to be a real steak, but it's fake. And it's all being run by actors. Everybody's an actor. None of these niggas is real. Half the people they show us is not the people they say that they are. They're actually other people. Like I said, Teddy Roosevelt may really be Booker T. Washington. Like it's that ill right now. Frederick Douglass, I done seen two pictures of him. One where he was Frederick Douglass, another one where they said he was Nat Turner. So all of these pictures are fake. Harriet Tubman, all of these people are fake. Like I told you, at the time that this was done, none of these niggas had a semblance of what the Civil War was really like. So all of this is made up. So I don't know. So Black History itself, Juneteenth, all of this shit is all fake. What's real? Moorish history. Because that is outside of all of the copyrighted terms that these people have been trying to use against us. So that obviously is something that we need to be building on. Because that is bringing us closer to the ancient Mauritanians and stuff that actually ruled and controlled this land than anything else. But until we move away from these black actors and black edutainers, they're always going to sell us out. They'll always put on a dress. They'll always do something to make us look like animals to get money, because that's all they could do. Anybody else? Yep, it was all fake, bro. Unfortunately, that's what's really going on. You can go and check all of this out yourself. Read about Salisbury. Get these books, and you'll start to see that all of the stories that they was telling us from Uncle Tom's Cabin and all of that shit was fake. All of the brutal stories they told us about slavery and shit like that. Like, yes, those things happen, but those things happen to people who were at war. And the unpopular opinion was that we lost when really we won. Remember, we are the Barbary powers. That was us. We are the barbarians. We are the Tartarians. We're the people who inherited all of this shit from what Allah left from the last upset. It's us. Different from the Africans, different from everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always been us. And that's why we're always trying to get somewhere. So all physical reality is just us trying to put off our true responsibility, which is to go back to the true essence of what this thing really is. But there's a part of us that likes to go through the physical situation to learn more about self. And until we just finally just accept, we're not going to get it. So next week, we're going to get into how the Cherokees and the Phoenicians are basically the same, and the Moors are all the same people. But by Cherokee, I'm talking about like the real Cherokee, the Ananawea and all of that. But how they are directly related to ancient Carthage, the ancient Punic empires, and how that correlates to that book I was telling you about, the Mediterranean conquest of, the Algonquin conquest of the Mediterranean world. So lastly, as we close out this, they said that the Bible say that when end time come, the Euphrates is going to dry out, and that's when the dead angels up in there is going to wake up and blow the trumpets and lead to the end of the world. So this is what the Euphrates look like right now under it. See that omega sign? See, that's the omega sign right there. Yeah, he gonna pay us back the compound interest and all of that. But I'm telling you, but this is how we actually get it, by us actually knowing who we are, who the principal in the account really is, more than us just saying it, us having the divine proof to show and prove that. Because that's where the power lies. You know what I'm saying? So lastly, as we close out, we're gonna start a beta test for this joint. Me and brother Dave, we are about to get it up. So we're beta testing the aspect of it now before we go live by the end of the month. So by the end of the month, it'll be ready to go in terms of with the e-commerce and everything. But in the meantime, if you want to check it out, through, like I said, we're in the beta test phase. So if you want to check that out, that'd be dope. Tell people about it, you know what I'm saying, and then try to move it out, because then what I'm gonna start to do is do a lot of the premieres and a lot of the stuff or whatever directly through the app. So this way YouTube can't block what I'm doing, and you know what I'm saying, mess with the sound and all the other type of shit. As well as I can have a direct to market base for the people. So I'm gonna do lives on it. You know what I'm saying? You can do call-ins, try to have a little like weekly show and shit on it, as well as using it as a spotlight also for the entertainment stuff I'm doing, which is the Dark Scope 418. I got another joint called the Chinchilla you're gonna really like, and some other stories and stuff like that, that kind of like striving to set up our own type of Marvel situation, but more dedicated to doing what they did to us, just in reverse. So I definitely need everybody's help with that. So if everybody can support, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for the $30 to money sign capital DS 418 via Cash App, and dupeteers@gmail.com through PayPal. I really appreciate that. Yeah, man. Anybody have any other questions? Just hit me up, houseofl@hotmail.com, for your individual process if we going through that. And just remember what I said, man. Start looking these people up, like I'm saying, and start looking at this history from the perspective of like not just propaganda, but how they can take a real actor, put him in a real circumstance, somebody like Castro, and how they can actually turn the whole people into what they want them to be through the personality of this person who they've mind controlled to believe that he's a giant, when he may actually be inhabited by one of these disembodied, malevolent, nephilitic spirits that we call demons, that are really just displaced because they have no ability to leave this place. But we do. So again, anybody have any more questions, or if you haven't, please hit me up, houseofl@hotmail.com. Also check out Cordoba Organics at www.cordobaorganics.com. And then yeah, we'll take it from there, man. But thank you guys for coming through. And if you have any more questions, you know how to hit me up. But thanks, man. In ruina eos bonum mortis, pax et amor preconium malut laudibus.